Hello from Jonathan and me. Welcome to the programme.
First tonight, the grief-stricken parents whose daughter was murdered during her dream holiday have been speaking publicly for the first time about her death.
Sarah Shields from Ipswich was killed on Gran Canaria last month. Her boyfriend was arrested on his return to the UK and has been charged with perverting the course of justice.
Now, in an exclusive interview, Sarah's parents, David and Angela, told our reporter Tom Barton how their daughter's death had devastated the family.
The sheer number of cards shows just how much Sarah Shields' family and friends will miss her. None more so than her mum and dad.
Just can't believe she's not with us. Just can't believe she's not with us. Our baby, our daughter. She meant the world to us. Such a loving home. David's a close family. She lived at home till April. She lived at home.
Sarah from Ipswich would have turned 24 2 weeks ago. She was murdered last month while on holiday in Gran Canaria. Her boyfriend, 36-year-old Christopher Chittock, has been charged with perverting the course of justice. Sarah was staying at the Belito Beach apartments on the south of the island, near Maspalomas. A cross-border investigation into her death has been launched. This is a complex operation involving the joint major investigation team from Norfolk and Suffolk Police, as well as the Spanish authorities. But it's one which officers hope will reveal the truth behind Sarah Shields' death. Police are appealing for anyone who was staying in the area near Belito Beach to come forward.
Well, we know that the Belito Beach Apartments is popular amongst British holidaymakers, and we've already traced a number of people that were on holiday between the 28th of June and the 11th of July, and we're just keen to speak to others that we haven't managed to locate.
And why do you want to speak?
Because they were on holiday when the incident occurred and obviously have knowledge that we want to understand what's gone on. And also there are things like digital cameras and telephones where people may have taken images that are vital to investigation.
Please, much information as you can. Please, anything. Photos. Got to see our lovely daughter in your photos. Please, come forward, please.
Sarah's parents are still struggling to come to terms with something so terrible happening on a trip which Sarah had been so excited about.
She loved holidays. She was so looking forward to that holiday. She, David, so looking forward to that holiday. Counting the weeks. She went out there alive, she's coming back dead. It's not fair.
Police and Crown Prosecution Service sources say they expect the Spanish authorities to apply within the next week or so for Christopher Chittock's extradition to Gran Canaria to face trial for Sarah's murder. Tom Barton, Anglia News, Ipswich.
Next tonight, the brilliant student accused of killing his academic father in a quiet corner of leafy Buckinghamshire. Police found the body of 70-year-old lecturer Samuel Alexander after digging up the garden of a house in the village of Drayton Parslow near Milton Keynes.
Mark Alexander is accused of killing him and placing his dismembered body in plastic bags before burying it in concrete in the garden of the family home. Well, Hannah Pettifer joins us live from there now. So, Hannah, what else did the court hear today then?
Well, today the first witness at the trial gave evidence at Reading Crown Court, and that was John Piddock. Now, he was the closest neighbour to Samuel Alexander. He lived just across the road to Samuel, and he was quite friendly with Samuel and his son Mark, so he knew them reasonably well. But he was also one of a group of neighbours who grew quite suspicious of Samuel's disappearance and decided to go to police and inform them of this. That was back in January. Now, at that time, Samuel had been missing for around about 6 months, and as you mentioned, his remains were found buried here under concrete at his house, which obviously led to his 22-year-old son Mark being charged with his murder.
Nothing ever really happens in Drayton Parslow. One person's comment to the police upon hearing their neighbour Samuel Alexander had been killed, his dismembered body found buried in concrete in his garden. His son Mark Alexander had grown up in the village and was well known to his immediate neighbours, now charged with his father's murder and concealing his body. Today, one of his neighbours gave evidence at Reading Crown Court. John Piddock lived opposite Samuel Alexander. He described Mr. Alexander Sr., who was a former university lecturer, as a control freak, with his only concern for his son being his academic achievement. He was said to be greatly ambitious for Mark Alexander and was planning for him to study at the Sorbonne in Paris. But his son, in fact, had no intention to go to France. He'd privately made arrangements to return to London instead. Giving evidence, Mr. Piddock said how he'd last seen Samuel Alexander in August last year. In the following months, he said he asked Mark Alexander where his father was. The replies he was given were that he was staying in France and London.
The jury was told how at a dinner party Mr. Piddock said as a flippant remark how he reckoned Mr. Alexander had been knocked off. One of his guests said the only way he'd find out was if a cement mixer turned up at the house. Only a few weeks later, a large red cement mixer appeared on Mr. Alexander's driveway.
Neighbours alerted the police to Samuel Alexander's disappearance in January. His body was found a few weeks later. The prosecution alleged Mark Alexander murdered his father because he could not stand the weight of expectation placed on him. He denies all the charges. The trial continues.
Well, Hannah, what's going to happen over the next few weeks?
Well, we're expecting more of Samuel Alexander's neighbours from here in Prospect Close to give evidence, but also Mark Alexander's girlfriend. Now, her name is Senta Nazar Bukova. She's also expected to take to the stand. Now, she shared a flat with Mark from about September last year in London, and the prosecution claims that she was witness to just how much Mark struggled under the influence of his father and under his control. So it's obviously quite a long list of people to get through, and that the trial's expected to last around about 6 weeks. So obviously quite a bit more evidence to come.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Hannah. The family of a father of two from Essex who plunged to his death while parasailing in Turkey is appealing for stronger regulation. This photo was taken just before 50-year-old Glenn Hudson and his daughter Emma went on a tandem parasail during their family holiday. But 10 minutes in, he fell 150 feet to his death. The family believe it was due to a faulty harness. Turkish police are now investigating.
I was told by our solicitor in Turkey that even a child sitting on that harness would have fell because it was so perished. They didn't care about my husband's life, and I don't want that to happen to someone else.
Harnesses aren't that expensive to buy, and it just feels to me like my dad's life, it was more than like the cost of a harness.
A Conservative peer who was hit by an egg while visiting Luton had been subjected to a string of verbal insults, a court heard today. Baroness Wasti was touring the town last November when she was confronted by a group who shouted abuse and pelted her with an egg. 23-year-old Gavin Reid from Luton appeared before magistrates in Westminster today. He denies a charge under the Public Order Act.
Now to the second in our series on the work of one of the